Hello, my darlings, and welcome back to Radio Wasteland. I'm your host, Chauncey Hallworth, and this is my co-host, Sean. How's it going, Sean?
Hello. Pretty good.
All right. I figure at the beginning of these shows I should remind people Radio Wasteland is a show about the paranormal and the mysterious and all that.
We usually just talk about whatever pops into our head.
Yeah,
for,
at which point people are just...
Like, are the new viewers gone yet?
Yeah. So,
that kind of thing.
I'm sick.
Oh.
I have a cold.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant, like, you have a twisted mind, which I was like, okay.
Well, then I'm definitely sick. I'm definitely sick.
Why are you telling the listeners this?
Let's check this out. Hang on.
Oh, that's not great.
That's my breathing. Yeah. Sounds like a bunch of, it sounds like a whole classroom of children trying to whistle at once, and none of them know how,
Yeah.
So I'm jacked up on Rockstar and cold medicine.
Okay.
So I've decided...
Shouldn't those cancel out? I thought most cold medicines were more like a depressant.
I don't know.
I think you're mixing your uppers and your downers there.
I'm here, aren't I?
Yes, you
Might be dead come morning, but I made it. Entertainment goes on.
That is true.
So I've decided that with my intoxicated state of mind, with the large amounts of caffeine and Dayquil, that I would air some of my dirty laundry.
Okay.
I am a terrible, terrible human being.
All right, I'm liking where this is going.
And I have two stories as to why.
All right.
So I've been trying to walk my dog with my daughter every day. And so we do it for like 3 days in a row. We walk 1.5 miles at lunch.
All right.
And she's got fast little legs, man. She's tiny, but she's like my what's it called in racing, the car, the pace car or whatever? She's like my pace car. I got to keep up with her. And I have a Chihuahua.
All right.
And so I'm taking this Chihuahua around with me. And the first day he's, loving it. But, you got to drag him a little bit because he's a little out of shape. And the second day is a little more clunky. You got to drag him a little more. Then the third day, he's like straight up like just not into it. And like I get like 2/3 of the way around the track and like I look back after dragging him and he's just like straight up limping.
Huh.
And like I pick him up and I have to carry him the last third of the way back. And his paws are all bloodied and blistered from walking around this, which makes me doubly bad for when I was dragging him as he was like injured.
I was not imagining dragging, like, literally.
Well, I wasn't literally dragging him, but... And then for two, he's just so out of shape from walking that he was capable of getting there, because, if you read stuff, a Chihuahua can walk about 2 miles a day max.
Interesting.
And,
They're hyper little creatures, so I always assumed they were more athletic than that.
So for, like, days afterwards, and even today's a little bit, but he had, like, a little scab on the bottom of each of his little pads on each little foot, each little dog foot. So that's one reason why I'm terrible.
Okay.
Then the other one actually happened to me like 2 weeks ago. And this one I am just really embarrassed about. Every time I bring it up to myself, even in my own head, I just get super embarrassed about it. So my wife and I's Friday night outing is we go to the casino. And then we go to a local bar, the 501. And we're at the 5, and a friend of mine, she comes up and she introduces me to her new boyfriend.
All right.
And it's real loud in there, and, it's bright, and I'm half deaf from playing music, and I can't hear anything, And so this guy, we make the introduction, and we shake hands. And he gives me some sort of, like, gangster double handshake thing where he, like, shakes my hand and then comes around and does something, right? And me, being now 42, as of my birthday was this Saturday. So now that I'm 42, the double handshake I find to be a little bit ridiculous when you're first meeting somebody.
Sure.
So I think, oh yeah, man, whatever. Why stop there? And I pull him in closer and I start doing all these like hand sign shake things and bumping and like making sort of gangster hand signs, like making fun of the handshake. And then I pull him in close to tell him I'm just messing with him, and he shakes his head. And he shakes his head. And then my friend leans over to me, and she's all, oh, yeah, he's deaf.
Oh.
And I'm all, oh my God. I'm just all, please tell him that I was making fun of his handshake. I was not being the world's worst human being. And so now I don't know if, like, I'm like scared to show my face out in public.
Well, I think most people don't know that happened. Or, I mean, they didn't until you aired that all on the air just now.
Yeah, well, maybe he's blocking it.
I feel like I gotta act kind of like the Catholic priest here when you're telling me all this stuff.
I do,
but
okay.
I mean, I don't know what to...
How many Hail Marys?
I don't know, like 50 Hail Marys.
50? You obviously were not raised Catholic. That's like for killing somebody.
Yeah, and I don't know.
It's like the mafia's getting 50. Shouldn't have like 3?
Some jumping jacks on top of that. I don't know. I don't know. Cut down on carbs. Just
I already did that.
Okay, then you're good. God forgives you.
All right, shut up now. We're going to talk about the show. Tonight we have guests on the SHE-Squatchers. And I don't know what's up with the SHE-Squatchers. I don't know if it's a group of women looking for Sasquatch or a group of lady Sasquatches looking for love. Maybe it's like a great
we
rom-com.
don't know what they're looking for.
Yeah, no, it is a group of women who chase down the Sasquatch.
Yeah.
I am curious as to why it's a group of women specifically. Maybe they were a group of friends that just got together, or so.
I would assume it's a bonding experience of some kind. Maybe.
Yeah, so.
I don't know if that's like one of the empowerment milestones or whatever we're trying to get for women, like first Sasquatch hunting group that's all women. But I mean, I don't know. I'm sure it counts to some degree, right? I think
that's borderline condescending, Sean.
Okay, all right.
I'm not sure if that's right. But I am curious as to why. I'm always curious as to, like when we were talking to the Dark Lady, I was curious as to, males' involvement with witchcraft.
Yeah. Well, really, I guess... I'm not sure there really needs to be a reason, I'm sure there isn't.
A very likely reason in this day and age is that boys were being jerks and we're letting them come along. Because, I mean, that's the day and age we live in, It's like...
Well, that would be a depressing thing to learn, but not even surprising, so...
Yeah, I don't know. But I do like the name.
It is a good name.
SHE-Squatchers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like She-Hulk, kind of.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah. Well, it's like woman. I'm a little disturbed by all these terms. It's like man, let's put a woe in front of it. That's a woman. The Hulk, there's a lady Hulk. What are we going to call that? She-Hulk?
Yeah.
Is a Squatch by nature masculine?
Language sucks.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. I think the man-woman thing came from, I don't know, something ancient or Germanic originally. That's what I want to say.
I don't know. We're all going to HE double hotkey sticks in a handbasket. All right, you're listening to Radio Wasteland. Come on back for the SHE-Squatchers.
Dance on and on the sky awaits you. Dance on and on the sky awaits you. Beaver holds and prairie folds, I know when you're not there, but sometimes dance on and on the sky awaits you.
All right, welcome back to Radio Wasteland and our guest, Jen and Jenna from the SHE-Squatchers. We got you there on the line with us?
We are here. Hello.
Hello, do I have
Hi
that
there.
right with Jen and Jenna?
You
You
bet.
are right, yeah.
That is an
All right.
awesome phrase, Jen and Jenna from the SHE-Squatchers.
Absolutely.
I just want to hang on that for a moment. That's so cool.
Excellent. We actually like to hang on that for moments, many, many moments, too. So, kidding.
So I assume that SHE-Squatchers, there was some tongue-in-cheek fun there with the name that you guys came up with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Lauren Coleman, the cryptozoologist who has the Bigfoot Museum in Maine,
Mm-hmm.
he calls female Sasquatches she-squatches. So that was kind of a play on that. So
Oh,
we're
that's
the
funny.
she-squatchers.
So before we came on, we were talking about why, and if there is any reason at all, why a group of women?
Well, again, Lauren Coleman, I was doing a radio interview with him on my old radio show, and he said that he felt that women would be the ones that would really be able to connect with Bigfoot and create a meaningful interaction, kind of like Jane Goodall did with the other women who've done the great work with the great apes.
Leakey?
And, excuse me?
Was it Leakey? Mary Leakey? I think
I think so.
Jane Goodall was the...
Really.
Louise Leakey, I think it was.
Yeah. All right. And, that makes a lot of sense because there's less apt to be aggression there, I think.
Well, we were talking to that guy who wanted to kill the Sasquatch and bring back the body, so...
That's true.
I mean...
Yeah, we had a guest on once
I think, you're probably right about that.
We had Jim Lansdale on from that show Killing Bigfoot, and he was about killing...
Bigfoot.
What he referred to as derelict Bigfoots, basically
Right.
not
just
the
any
criminals
Bigfoot.
of the Bigfoot community.
Right. Just the ones that, destroy property or whatever, which is, still pretty aggressive there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you
I
find...
keep wondering why. Why do they destroy property? Aren't we encroaching on them? Is that the problem?
Well, yes, but I think that a lot of people don't have that attitude towards nature when we encroach upon it. And I have to say, I'm somewhat guilty of that. If I see a spider in my house, I freak out.
Yeah.
So
you and me both.
So do you guys ever run into any, I mean, I know we're just kind of cutting to the heart of the chase here, but do you guys deal with any people who are out to kill it?
Everyone wants to know, do we carry weapons? And the answer is no, we don't. And, even if I can use a gun, I know how, I'm very good at it, but, how do I know how every teammate is going to react if they get startled by something? We don't know how people react in the moment, so we don't want to accidentally do something we would regret later.
Yeah, and going back to what we were talking about, maybe women carrying a less violent intent with them into the situation and less apt to act violently. You never know if carrying a weapon would change someone's intent and therefore the way the animal reads the person.
I think it does. I believe that it does.
Sorry, go right ahead.
There's lots of belief out there that they can smell the gunpowder, or they're aware of your intention if you have a weapon, and we just don't want to bring any of that into there.
So can you tell us a little bit about what one of your guys' outings is like?
Well, we have a lot of fun. Now, I was a psychic medium doing missing persons cases and paranormal investigations prior to this idea, and I didn't know if I believed in Bigfoot when we first started. I really didn't know. I thought, well, I'll go see what we find. Maybe there's a Bigfoot, maybe not. And so a lot of those extra abilities that I've used in missing persons cases, I thought, I wonder if we could use this to help find Bigfoot. And that has been a very fun adventure, indeed. So I'll give you, I sent you some pictures of the footprints that we had found in that gravel pit. And that's an interesting story. Nikki Jourdain and Jenna Grover and myself were out on a scouting mission. And we were driving from one location to another. And as Nikki was driving my car, I had my awareness full open, and I sensed something in the woods as we drove by at 55 miles an hour. And I yelled, "Stop the car, turn around, we gotta go back and get in there somehow." Something is back there. And I didn't know what it was. I just sensed something's there. So we turn around, we go back, and there's a gravel pit back behind these trees that we'd just been driving by. And we pulled into this gravel pit, and it was clear as day, this stream of footprints going straight up this really steep hill that could not have been human or a bear because it was way too steep. And those footprints were huge and very detailed. And it was just an amazing find. And every time we've shown these to other Bigfoot researchers, like from the BFRO or the ECBRO, all the guys from Finding Bigfoot were really impressed with them. And when they saw the incline of that hill, they're like, there's no way that could have been a human or a bear. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought too.
So are
really
you convinced?
You
said you started out as a skeptic. Are you convinced now?
I am.
You are?
I am.
And are you convinced from sightings or from feelings or both?
Both? For me, it's both.
Well, it sounds like you had some physical evidence on that last one there, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, physical evidence can only go so far. You gotta, seeing is believing. So have you ever witnessed a Bigfoot?
We have found a structure in the woods that I knew there was things around us, and I was being very cautious of that. They were kind of staying in the shadows of the one area, and I was very focused on that. Mm-hmm. And knowing just to keep a little bit of distance, but just kind of pretend they're not there. So I mean, that for me, going through that footage later, and seeing that there is something in that space for so long in the video, and then it's gone, and then there's something back again. I mean, it's very obvious to me that there is definitely something out there, and this structure was built. It was a built structure, and there are quite a few Bigfoot sightings reported. And honestly, I was blown away. I do remote viewing, geographic remote viewing, and that's how we located this location to look for something there. And it lit up on my map when I was looking at it as in response to my asking the question, can you show me where Bigfoot evidence that we can collect is? And this whole area lit up, and that was the area that we found the structure in.
What was the structure like? I'm not really able to picture this here, I guess.
When we first came upon it, when we first are walking towards it, the part of it that I didn't even notice in person because I was so focused on this, there was a tower structure that went up a couple of stories, 2-3 stories.
Wow.
And that's where something was inside of that sometimes, and sometimes it wasn't.
So like this wooden tower in the woods.
It was made out of trees, though.
Out of trees.
Made out of trees.
Interesting.
And
I see. It was like a clump of trees with things connecting it that had been put there by.
Yes.
I see.
Interesting.
And there were. It was the end cap of this other long structure that was more like a ranged structure that you could sleep in. The ground had been worked up, which we didn't know at the time was a prerequisite for sleeping on the ground outside so you don't get hypothermia. We didn't even know that. Jenna had crawled into it and said, "Oh, this ground has been worked up. It's so nice and soft." And, she kept saying that, and I didn't know until after I was reviewing the footage with a neighbor who was an Army survival teacher, who said, that has to be worked up to be slept on, or you'd get hypothermia. And I'm like, really? I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Actually. Yeah. So, are either of you ever terrified when you're in that? I mean, because it sounds to me like you were fine. You come across this thing in the woods that obviously they put some investment into, and you think that they're around you. Is that terrifying for either of you?
I'm going to say that Jenna is probably the most fearless person I know.
You see, the implication of that, Jen, is that you are not.
Well, let's just say that there was a fence made around this thing that we didn't even realize was a fence at the time because we were so focused on looking at the structure. We just kept moving the sticks to get around them. And it wasn't until I looked at the footage after the fact that I realized these sticks were weaved together, creating a fence that was 8 to 10 feet tall. We weren't even really noticing that because we were so focused on the structure we were looking at.
I see.
We were just trying to get into it.
Right. So you potentially, could be upsetting somebody for messing up their creation.
As soon as we got in there and we get around the corner and we're looking at the actual structure that would be like a rain shelter, like a little house where you could sleep in. Jenna's like, do you want me to get in there? And I'm like, what? I'm like, do you want to get in there? And she's like, don't you want me to? I'm like, okay.
I'm not ready to take on that responsibility of sending you in there.
But she was like, I want to get in there. I'm like, okay. I wasn't really ready to jump in there myself or to send her in there, but she was raring and willing to go. So I was like, okay.
All right, well, now seems like a good time to take a break, leave our audience hanging a little bit. You're listening to the SHE-Squatchers, Jen and Jenna from SHE-Squatchers, here on Radio Wasteland. We'll be right back after this commercial break. All right, welcome back to Radio Wasteland and our guests, Jen and Jenna from the SHE-Squatchers. So, this is a common discussion, but I like to have it with each squatcher. I find the term squatching to be hilarious.
But cool.
But cool, yeah, it's just a funny term. And then there was that show on TV, and the guy had the Gone Squatchin' shirt. And it just cracked me up, and I wanted the Gone Squatchin' shirt so bad, because it was just such a funny word,
It is a funny word.
So, what do you think the Sasquatch is?
I'm going to let Jenna answer that first, because we have different ideas sometimes.
Oh, good.
Go ahead, Jenna.
Well, there's, there's so many different theories on what he could possibly be. For me, I'm still a skeptic. I need to see things to believe them. When I joined the team, I was a skeptic. I really, like Jen said, you don't think about, whether you believe in Bigfoot or not until you get an opportunity to be on a team, which was incredible. And I think, personally, Bigfoot is more of a creature, something that we haven't found yet. You know what I mean? Like something related to the gorilla family. That's what I think.
So you think it's a primate?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's possible. I think that's possible, but from what I'm seeing, I'm thinking that the creature that I'm tracking is a lot more intelligent than, say, the common gorilla or chimpanzee. And I'm seeing a lot more structure to the habitats that I've been seeing built, and a lot more stealthiness than I would expect, I guess. I just think that there's a lot more going on there than just being an undiscovered animal.
Right.
I suspect that. I don't know for sure, but I suspect.
But you're still leaning towards some sort of primate, like a human is a primate.
Definitely a solid creature, yes.
Yeah. Because, there's lots of, beliefs out there that it's potentially not a far cry from a man that's just living in the wild, that it's a giant sloth. Yeah. Personally, the one I find to be most entertaining in a fun way is that it's a trans-dimensional gold digger.
Yeah. I was reading Linda.
Gold digger?
Yeah, I don't know about gold digger.
No, yeah. Well, that basically, okay. One of the belief systems is that it's basically an alien, a trans-dimensional being that comes here looking for gold, as so many aliens supposedly do. Okay. And that's why we can't find it, because it's trans-dimensional, it's not actually there to be found.
I will say that, I'm part Native American, a part Ojibwe, and part Dakota Sioux, and also Cree. And my tribe believes that Bigfoot is a solid creature, very physical, but yet is very intelligent and can at will move through dimensions.
Really?
From the spirit realm, for instance, to the solid realm.
I was reading Linda Godfrey's book on dogmen, upright canids, and so forth, and she came to a similar conclusion regarding them and also Bigfoot. She kind of lumped in there that, maybe it was something that was incorporeal or maybe was solid but could kind of slip in between worlds and so forth. So it sounds like this is a theory that, a lot of people subscribe to.
It's not a theory as far as the tribe is concerned because Bigfoot is ingrained deeply into their spiritual belief systems. Like there's something called the 7 Teachings of the Grandfathers in the Ojibwe culture, and this is part of their, I hate to use the word religion, but for lack of a better word, religion. The 7 Teachings of the Grandfathers are extremely sacred, and each one is represented by an animal. And Bigfoot represents honesty in one of their 7 sacred teachings. So it's very, very old. And the stories that go along with Bigfoot are very connected to the people, that Bigfoot will always be near the people, as a protector of the people. It's just very unique how old this stuff is. So I tend to think that they're right just based on the things that I've seen myself. It really kind of clicks with it.
But I assume that as you were trying to find, your goal is to find physical evidence, though, right? To find proof?
Absolutely.
And to communicate, peacefully. We definitely want to communicate, not just find some hair or something.
So what do you think is the most compelling piece of Bigfoot evidence out there?
They say existing evidence or evidence we'd like to find?
Well, let's start out with existing evidence.
Well, for what we found, probably those footprints that we sent you pictures of, that was probably really solid for me because of the weight that creature had to be to sink that far in.
Right.
And how strong it had to be to walk up that hill without using its hands, because we couldn't do it. I couldn't make it up that hill at all. Jenna made it up, but she was on all fours.
Oh, yeah. You literally would take one step and your foot would go down 5 inches. So you really had to work. It was like one of those elliptical machines, but you had a great view.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
So that was something that we could physically see. A human could not have done that. So to me, that was really solid evidence that there's something there. My senses alone tell me that there's something there, but this just backs it up. The structures that we found are obviously built and without tools, and it's nothing that a bear or anything like that would ever create. So something is back there that's very strong, that can rip trees out of the ground by the roots and flips them upside down and teepees the roots together. It's unbelievable. I don't know any person who could have done that.
True.
Yeah, that's crazy. So is there any DNA proof out there? Is there any hair fibers that are really convincing? I've caught a couple of shows, but I haven't really put in the research to really know if there's any scientific evidence floating around out there that is just kind of seriously eyebrow-raising.
That's a really good question, and I've often wondered that myself. And there have been shows about that I've watched, and it just seems like when they do find something that could be DNA evidence, it always comes back like it wasn't strong enough DNA, or it was inconclusive, or we can't identify it.
Right.
But still, they're not saying this is absolute evidence. They're not saying that, and I'm wondering why. If you can't identify it, then what is it?
Right.
I think people don't want to come out and say this is it.
So you think maybe that evidence is there and people are just a little hesitant to sort of put their name behind it?
Yes. Well, if you consider the mummies that they found of those what appear to be aliens in Peru, and they're still claiming that that's not real, that can't be real, but yet the scientists who are looking at it say that it is. It's just they don't want to admit that, in my opinion. So, I mean, my goal now is to find bones. I wouldn't kill something or kidnap a baby Bigfoot or anything like that. But, you know, I think that maybe we should be looking for bones.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know, that's a no-kill, no-hurting anybody type of find.
Yeah, absolutely. And so is there anybody out there looking for bones, and how does one go about doing that? Do you just look for corpses in the woods, or... Well, I mean, you know, how do you ask that question? You know, how do you go about doing that?
For me, as a remote viewer, I'll be asking the question, I'm looking for bones. You know, I'm looking for Bigfoot bones, and I'll be asking that and scanning the woods that way. But that's a very unusual way to go looking for Bigfoot. I think we're the only ones who do that.
I don't know much about remote viewing, but I'm assuming it's not like a, you know, 100% here I ask the question and there's the answer in perfect clarity kind of thing. You know, I assume there's some trial and error involved with that.
There is, but it's actually closer to a science and controlled remote viewing. You know, they have their statistics that are tracked. And some people, you know, like, there's one particular lady, what's her name? I can't remember her name off the top of my head. But she's we mentioned her in our blog a while back, and she's a remote viewer. She's got an 87% accuracy rating over many years. So when she says something, you can pretty much guess it's 87% correct.
Yeah.
So for myself, I've been doing remote viewing for paranormal investigation teams prior to them going to locations. I'll look at a place with Google Earth or Google Maps, satellite imagery, and I'll tell them everything I see there, and I'll just keep asking questions and get in. The image that I see changes. Not that it changes on the actual picture, just my perception of it changes in response to the question that I ask. And I write down everything, and I am extremely accurate on really very specific things that would not be true for anywhere usually. Like my first time I did it for a particular team, I saw...
Hey, I'm sorry to cut you off here, but we're coming up on a commercial break, so if we can, let's pick this up right when we get back. You're listening to Jenna and Jen from the SHE-Squatchers here on Radio Wasteland. Come back. Welcome back to Radio Wasteland, and our guests, Jen and Jenna from the SHE-Squatchers. I have to apologize for my voice, my coughing, my sneezing, and my general lethargy. I have a cold. Thank you. You know, nothing makes me feel better than pity. I like that.
You've got it. You've got ours, baby.
Thanks. Before the break, we were talking a little bit about remote viewing and the use of remote viewing, and basically the use of mediumship or being sensitive. You know, I found that in the beginning, when I was first looking into this stuff, there was a lot of sort of just straight up nuts and bolts, you know, we're going after this with science. And over the past couple of years, it seems that people have started to open up to the idea of using alternative sciences and fringe sciences in order to find out more about these things. Have you guys found that that's the case?
It's definitely true for us. I know Jenna didn't really believe that we could do that the first time I took her out that way.
Oh my gosh, no. I'm sorry, but I believe in Jen, but she told me about remote viewing, and I kind of thought, all right, well, whatever you want to do, Jen. I mean, I know Jen is psychic, and she's very good at what she does, but boy, I just didn't have faith in this remote viewing thing. But sure enough, I was in shock. I was totally not a believer in this, but I was in shock. It actually worked. We literally pulled up, and boom, right to the left of us. She walked in there just like she had a plan. She knew where she was going, and I was looking around, you know, kind of like, well, where do we start? You know, and there she was. She goes, Jen, you got to come here. So she's pretty good at it.
That's amazing.
Before we even got out of the car, I said, it's within 100 feet this way, straight back into the woods. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, I think being pretty good at remote viewing for most people is just absolutely flabbergasting, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's
I think it's really interesting. You know, you can't do this sort of thing and not be a fan of Art Bell. And I just remember, you know, 20 years ago listening about remote viewing on Art Bell, thinking like, you know, that's really quite an amazing concept. You know, the concept of basically reading the ripples of life to find out what's going on and what's out there, you know. Mm-hmm. So do you guys do like group outings and camping trips and sort of like, you know, or is this sort of a day trip situation? And one thing I'm really curious about is, what do you take with you? Do you have any sort of scientific instruments or anything that you take with you, or is it just a matter of a camera and time?
You've got some loaded questions there.
Yes, we do.
Sorry, was that too much?
No. We do go out and we go out whenever we get the chance to. If we're driving by something and we see something, we might stop.
Literally right there.
Right there. We might be late getting to where we're getting to. So sometimes we have just little short excursions, something caught our eye. Sometimes we'll just go for a few hours, and sometimes we plan a whole expedition where we're out there for days. Mm-hmm. And we have we've gone camping at like Squatchman's hotspot in Indiana, Brigio's hotspot, and that was a fun time. We're going to go back there.
Can't wait to go back there. Greg is awesome. Squatchman! Shout out.
I like the Squatchman shout out. Well, that's one thing that I've always been curious about is like when you're out camping, you know, what is nighttime like when you're out camping? Is there no fire? Or do you sort of treat the nighttime like you would when you're camping and then the next day sort of hike away from your campsite trying to find something? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we had a fire when we went camping. Absolutely. We had a fire.
Yes.
But we have gotten stuck in the woods in the dark.
Ooh.
And where all of our equipment, because we carry quite a bit of equipment and we have extra equipment in the car. But this particular time we were returning back to that big stick structure that we found, and we had left the car quite a ways down the trail so that we didn't interrupt anything that was going on in the woods. We kind of just walked up on it down the trail and came up that way. And we had left somebody in the car. And when we were out there looking at it, all of our equipment went dead at the same time. And we're talking big, huge flashlights that light up the woods that only need to be charged every 6 months. And these things went dead at the same time as all of our cameras. And we had all kinds of video cameras and night vision cameras. Well, I had 13% left on my cell phone and 2 headlamps in my pack that we hadn't used. So, I mean, I pulled those out. That's what we had left to find our way out of the woods. Because it was pitch black out there when the sun went down.
That's terrifying.
And we couldn't see very far in front of us. And we've actually put a YouTube video on YouTube of us turning the cameras back on when the lights went out, because something big was moving near us in the woods. And I was trying to light it up with my little headlamp to see if I could see what it was, because it was big and it was close.
Yeah. So it was a little nerve-wracking at that time. But, Jen, we should have totally done like a Blair Witch scene on the last 15 seconds of your phone, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Well, there was kind of a Blair Witch scene when I hit the ground face first.
Oh.
I feel like that lends a little bit of credence to the like trans-dimensional Bigfoot idea, because that doesn't happen when you're hunting for gorillas or whatever.
Is the implication of what you're saying here that everything went out just sort of coincidentally due to poor planning, or that it was potentially something supernatural or electromagnetic?
It had to have been. Mm-hmm. It had to have been, because the previous time that we had been there, this is really weird, because Jenna was wearing a GoPro camera on her head, and she had a camera that she was holding, very expensive one too, by the way, and her equipment malfunctioned where everything went blurry, and her GoPro stopped going from video and it only started taking pictures through this whole time. And then mine worked, but hers malfunctioned.
So it kind of glitched out and... Yeah, crazy. So that does make the electromagnetic.
All of her equipment glitched out. All of her equipment.
Yeah.
And I'm good. I plug everything in. I make sure everything is ready to go and everything. And
yeah, I don't doubt it. I just wanted to clarify for our audience. And unfortunately, we're coming up on the end of our show here. Man, we're going to have you guys back on. You guys are a lot of fun, and you guys got some great answers to all of our questions, and I realize we got a lot of them. But before we cut out of here, can you tell our audience a little bit more about how they can find out about you guys?
Sure, they can find us online at SHE-Squatchers.com or on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/SHE-Squatchers official, or on YouTube at SHE-Squatchers official.
And, can you tell us a little bit more about your group? Because you're only two of the bunch, right?
That's right. There's two more of us that aren't with us tonight. Nikki Jourdain, and she's Native American from the Red Lake Band of Chippewa it's Ojibwe Indians, actually, in northern Minnesota. And then we've got Marlo Jane, which she's from southern Minnesota. So they still have children at home, so they don't make it to as many events out of state as we do.
Believe me, I understand that.
What's that?
Oh, I understand that. My youngest is 17. I'm on the brink of freedom.
Oh, no, on the brink. Good luck, man. I hope you make it. So close.
Yeah, my wife and I were just like, gosh, can't wait. But this is totally off topic, but I did just read an article the other day that said that basically kids now live with their parents off and on until they're 35. So I'm just like, oh, yeah, awesome.
Boy, I really missed out on that savings.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, we can send them to live with the Squatches. All right. Well, thank you guys very much for being on the show. I'd love to have you on again. You have been listening to Jen and Jenna from the SHE-Squatchers here on Radio Wasteland. All right. Welcome back to Radio Wasteland. And we just were done listening to our guests, Jen and Jenna from the SHE-Squatchers.
So cool.
What's so cool?
Their name?
SHE-Squatch?
Yeah, well, their whole thing. I wish I had a remote viewing friend who I could, have take me out onto the forest to look for Bigfoot. But, all of my friends are boringly non-psychic, so whatever.
Yeah. What would be the first thing, if you had a remote viewing friend who said that they would help you answer any question, what would your first question be?
Well, I wouldn't use that opportunity for knowledge. I'd use it for personal gain. So
well,
probably like the combination to someone's safe or something.
Really?
Yeah, or I don't know if it's possible to remote view bank account information. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't be possible. You just remote view someone while they're, typing in a password or something.
So you'd use it to be a thief?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously.
Obviously.
I mean, is it you never get caught because it's psychic. So, you can't prove in court that anything happened because, the information came about psychically. So it's barely even a crime.
What about Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer we had on our show? Maybe he'd do you in.
That is true. But I seem to recall that he was a lawyer and then he was psychic.
I see.
Yeah, I don't remember that he was using his psychic powers, in the court of law on the side of good. So I think I would be okay.
I think if I were able to ask anything, it would be, I would get David Bowie on it. I'd say, is there life on Mars? Or has there ever been life on Mars?
Yeah.
That's what I really want to know.
But see, then you're just stuck knowing that, and you can't, prove it to anyone in conversation ever. And so, that knowledge just does you no good.
Yeah, that's just it's the one thing I'm hoping to find out in my lifetime that there was.
Yeah, that's fair. But I'd rather have millions of ill-gotten dollars.
Yeah. So to go back to our topic, I know cryptids are your favorite.
They are, yes. Well, I wouldn't say my favorite. It depends on the cryptid, right? I like Mothman.
Right. But
and the Jersey Devil and some of the
do you believe in Bigfoot?
I think I'm more in line with, maybe the incorporeal Bigfoot or the transdimensional Bigfoot. If you propose Bigfoot to me as there's this primate that we just haven't discovered. I find that kind of far-fetched. But, I would say of the two topics that we cover that are the most widely believed and have the biggest body of evidence, probably UFOs and ghosts. So I'd say if you believe in ghosts, it's kind of random to not think that, maybe there's ghosts that don't take the form of a person.
Right.
So I would lump Bigfoot and other cryptids, a lot of them, under that same category of, apparitions.
Yeah, well, before we come up on our next break, these things often make me think of some sort of media thing that I like, books, movies, so on and so forth.
Sure.
Bigfoot hunting and hunting for cryptids always makes me think of this movie. It's on Netflix. It's got a terrible rating, but it's actually really good, and it's called The Beast of Exmoor. Have you ever seen this?
I haven't.
And it's like a group of people who go out hunting for like some cryptid dog in the wilderness.
Like the Beast of Gavudon or whatever.
Right. And while they're out there, they end up stumbling upon some kind of killing grounds for a serial killer where he dumps his bodies.
Oh, boy.
Okay. And then it turns out that the cryptid hunter actually knew it was there and brought the camera crew with him because he wanted to hunt the serial killer.
Huh. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I have to watch that now.
It's pretty good. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, The Beast of Exmoor. All right. Well, I guess I should throw out, do I believe in Bigfoot? No. I don't disbelieve either. I have a couple of friends who swear that they've seen it, and I have no reason to think that they're lying to me. So it definitely makes me think that it is totally possible.
So you're a strong maybe there.
I'm a strong maybe.
Yeah, all right.
Which is pretty much maybe. Exactly a maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Well, you sounded pretty definite when you said no. You were just like, do I think that? No. To the point.
We need, it's like, I complain about this all the time. Like, people will ask me about a band, I'm way into music. And people say, oh, do you like this band? And I'm all, no. And they're just, what? Why don't you like them? And I'm all, I don't dislike them. Okay. I just don't like them. I don't have an opinion either way. I really, you know. Right. So there needs to be some sort of word for meh. Maybe meh. Meh is the new word. Has that made it into the
I don't know if it's a
dictionary?
I don't know if you can use it in Scrabble, but I mean, it sounds like your thinking is a little less black and white there than maybe for most people, so that's good, right?
Given the letters and the amount of letters, though, you wouldn't want to use that in Scrabble.
Well, maybe it's like one of the little side words off of your main word.
Something to connect it to.
Yeah, exactly.
Mehistopheles or something. Is that a word?
Or something.
All right, you're listening to Radio Wasteland. When we come on back, we got the news. Welcome back to Radio Wasteland, and we're talking about the news. Sean, you got anything exciting for us this week?
Yeah, well, I took pains to look into Bigfoot sightings here recently. I started by looking for news about Sasquatches, but unfortunately there's some giant music festival happening right now called Sasquatch or something like that, and all the news is about that. Which was irritating, but eventually I managed to look into Bigfoot-related topics. And a couple of days ago, we got a sighting right here in California. It called it Northern California, but that's patently ridiculous because it's like Fresno, which is not Northern California.
Well, I don't know. If you think of a pencil and you have the north side and the south side of a pencil, California's straight up and down, you cut it in the middle, and Fresno's up here, isn't it?
I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's more centrally located, I suppose. Anyway.
All right. Tell us about the Fresno Bigfoot.
Yeah, so it was around area that you may or may not be familiar with, Avocado Lake. I am not too familiar with Fresno County, so it doesn't mean much to me, but it's about an hour east of the city proper. But yeah, so we got ranchers living out there. This is Central Valley, fairly rural area on the edge of Fresno County. and they spotted a family of Bigfoots messing with the animals out there. Pigs.
Messing with the pigs, huh?
Yeah, so it wasn't real specific. It sounded like one of the Bigfoots was holding one of the pigs. Which is, I think, a little more like interaction than you usually get from these critters. And so after that, it proceeds like a normal Bigfoot sighting. You know, the Bigfoots are spooked and proceed off into the wilderness where they and their footprints are never seen again.
Did they drop the pig or take the pig with them?
It sounds like they didn't. I guess I have to surmise that they didn't take the pig with them because I don't know that, but I think they would have mentioned in the article if like there was a pig that was gone.
With the pig, right?
Right. I think they would have mentioned that, but they really didn't elaborate on the fate of this animal at all.
So this is what this leads me to believe. Okay, so you know, like when you're robbing a house and you get there and they got a big pack of Rottweilers.
Sure.
And you're just all like, oh no, we're going to be eaten by these Rottweilers. Luckily, we have some.
You sound so like pepped up about that.
Well, I have a cold. You know, luckily we brought these steaks stuffed with barbiturates, you know, that we're going to feed to the Rottweilers, right? So they go to sleep. Apparently, we got to drug up a bunch of pigs.
Yeah.
And put them out in the wild to drug the Bigfoot.
You know, that's not what I took away from this story, but it kind of is now that you explain it. Like, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And, you know, enough of this remote viewing stuff. We just need some drugged up pigs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, you've been listening to Radio Wasteland. Thanks for checking us out.